Hi, this is Lisa Stiller, and today we are doing our show, Community Conversations, and we are talking with Kristine Adams-Wannberg, our county auditor, and thank you for listening. Christine, thank you for doing this. We all are really anxious to hear from you. So first of all, give us an idea, what's your background and why did you run for this position?
Sure. I've been in government probably about 27, 28 years. I've worked in policy and budget, but mostly I've worked in performance auditing for most of that time. So I was really interested in running for this office because there were things I felt that the office needed to be able to do, such as provide better accountability, transparency, and also look at efficiency and effectiveness of county operations.
So tell us exactly what an auditor does.
Sure. So I would liken what an auditor does, at least our particular shop, because we're a performance audit shop. I would liken it to what we're doing is a lot of program evaluation. Oftentimes, what we're doing is we're going into a government program. We're looking at how that program is running. Is it efficient? Is it effective? We might look at policies to see if those are up to date, if they're complying. We also might look at transparency and accountability and if things are running well. Um, it's a pretty fun job. We really enjoy what we do, and it provides a great stewardship, accountability focus for the public.
And what do you look for in audit is the harder question. What tips you up if there's concerns?
So we take concerns pretty much year round. We have a time where we do a call for audit topics, so the public can basically email in, they can fill out a form, they can give us different topics that they might want us to look at. We get feedback as well from other elected officials within the county, other jurisdictions, even cities, and county employees. So we get that kind of year round. We also see things during the time in which we're doing audits. So there might be some things that we're like, okay, well, that looks like something we may need to do a little bit of further research in. But a lot of our really good topics come from the public, actually.
Do you have a set number of departments you audit every year just on a set basis? Or does that just everything just randomly depending on what?
So there are a couple different ways we determine like what we're going to audit. So it might be something where we're looking at risk to the county. It might be a large dollar amount. It might be a risk like, okay, there's a lot of federal funding involved. So that has to have a lot of compliance requirements and stuff. We don't have a set number per se, but I will say because we are a small office and we only have, in addition to me, two other staff, normally for our performance audits, we're only able to get out about 2 or 3 per year. So it's not a lot considering the size of the county.
It's a big job.
It is a big job, but it's a great job. It's really wonderful to be able to do deep dives and do research on behalf of the public to make sure we're using our resources well.
So one of the big concerns over an audit is always transparency in government.
Yeah.
So what does your office do to make sure that your audits are transparent and government's transparent?
Yeah, so one of the great things about our office is we follow government auditing standards, and that requires that all the information in the audit report basically be published. So you can look at our audit website. It will have our reports from the last 10 years on it. So you can look at that and basically read the report. Those are the high-level results of the audit. And they should give you some pretty good information about what happened in the audit, what we were looking for, and the recommendations we're making for improvement.
So you have state audit standards you follow?
They're actually government audit standards. They're based on the U.S. Accountability Office, so up at the federal level of that part of Congress. So yeah.
And there was something that'll be the last question that will relate to that. What challenges do you face as an auditor in your office? What job challenges? What personnel challenges?
Yeah, definitely. I think capacity obviously is going to be a challenge here. If you look at other audit shops in the region, and you look at the populations of those regions and everything, or those particular counties, we should be an audit shop that should probably be at about 5 or 6 auditors, but we're not. We're a lot smaller because we have a lot of budget constraints. I think some of the other more practical challenges are things like trying to work with the departments to make sure we can get information. There can be times when, because they have something big going on, they have to delay getting information to us. I've had situations where that could be up to 2 to 4 months, which really delays the audit and makes the information a little more stale. I think there can be misunderstandings in the audit. I think just saying the word auditor instills a certain degree of fear in people, which I don't think is really warranted considering what we do. But I think anytime that people feel like they're being watched or feel like they might be criticized or something, I think people are going to be a little defensive. So we have to try to overcome that to get the information about the program. I try to tell people, what we're looking at is it's a process or it's a program. It's really very, very much not at the individual person and how they're performing. We're looking at a bigger picture, more of a system.
So I'm going to ask a question I was going to ask at the end, but really sure I was to answer. Sure. It's what's going on now in the government with the IRS up for being all our data being seen. Does that worry you with how people see your position right now?
I think you're referring to the federal government, all the Doge things going on. Honestly, no, I don't think that's going to impact my office per se, because I'm a certified internal auditor. I was elected into this position. Basically, if the people of Washington County do not like my services, they can kick me out at the next election. And I think I think that's one of the good things about having that. The stuff that's going on the federal level, I would say, is definitely of big concern to me. It's of concern to a lot of the local government auditing community because people are going in really without the appropriate qualifications and need to see that information. So that is something that concerns me. I certainly don't want my social security number out there for just anybody to see. I'm sure that there are a lot of people who feel very similarly to that.
So to make people feel better, the federal government cannot have you go into people's taxes or anything that they're doing.
Correct. So I would not be able to look at, for example, information into a federal database with the proprietary information. Now, there are parts of the county I can look at because I would be able to have confidential access to see how a particular program is running. That wouldn't be to audit an individual per se, but again, it's how is that program running? How is it doing? And normally when that happens is my folks in my office, mostly me, I have to sign a confidentiality form to basically say, hey, I recognize that this is sensitive or confidential information that I'm looking at, and I have certain responsibilities with regard to that information.
So also you just finished the audit for the county.
I did, yes.
And there's some reports in the paper. What challenges were there in that? What concerns did it raise?
Yeah, so the last audit that we finished, we just did a presentation in January on that. That was on our Major Street Transportation Improvement Program, which is right over here. Really great program, really interesting. This program has been around for about, I guess I would say 30 some years. It provides during that time, it's provided over $1 billion of money towards county transportation needs and everything. So it's a really good program. And we are so lucky as a county to have that program because Multnomah County, Clackamas do not have anything like that. And our roads, I will say, they're way better. So we still have things to work on though. I think the thing that was really challenging with that audit is it had a very long history. It started off as a ballot measure, a couple different ballot measures, and then during Measure 50, it was folded into the permanent tax rate. And in doing that, it sort of became part of the general fund. The general fund, as you know, is something that you can use for pretty much anything. But we have sort of tried to keep this, the MISTA program a little bit more separate because of the county's financial situation right now. That's a little bit more into question as to whether that's going to be separate or not or considered general fund. A lot of people really love this program. It benefits the county. It benefits a lot of cities. Cities depend on it. They try to budget for it. So I think there was definitely, concerns on multiple sides in terms of wanting to see this program changed in some way or put into code or things like that. So our recommendations, we had a couple different buckets in terms of recommendations. One is that I do feel like this program should be in code. I think there are ways to have some flexibility in there, though. I don't think there should be a particular funding level set, but I do think its existence should be in code. I think one of the things that happened in our capital planning for all these great projects that we do, is we need to be better about our methodology in terms of how we project for inflation, because obviously the last couple of years, inflation has been all over the place with regard to different raw materials and things. And then the last one is we had some really good information from the Department of Land Use and Transportation about some things that they felt that would help them in their process by actually eliminating a policy, which I think was really useful. It's kind of a question: do we really need to do that anymore? We've evolved a little bit, so yeah, it was a good audit, but I know that there were some really big feelings, both in terms of thoughts about what the county board was seeing and what they wanted versus, I would say, the mayors that reside in the county, and I think they both had very good and valid points. They just had some different perspectives.
So is there going to be some kind of forum for people to get feedback on this or some kind of public event?
So we do have on our website, we do have a feedback form, and we love feedback on our reports. Anytime people can give us feedback about, was this a good topic? The way we approached it, was that appropriate? Did it feel fair and objective? That is great feedback for us to get, because we take that very seriously. We try to improve every single audit based on that feedback. So, and we've been really lucky. A lot of the members of the public have been able to give us feedback on that particular audit. Some of the feedback was actually just an acknowledgement that it was good public information, and they didn't realize the program was quite as complicated as it really is. So I thought that was really useful. We got that information out. So
I think when people realize that a program is a lot bigger and more complicated, they will have appreciation for what you're doing and the money you're spending.
Well, I think what our office is doing, I think what the county is doing, that particular program has a lot of moving parts to it. And there are a lot of people with some very good opinions on how it should be done. So I think that's useful. I think that helps generate good conversations that need to happen. Some of those conversations might not be always comfortable, but I think they still need to occur.
And because your presence here, having an auditor in the city, auditors in the county, do you think that keeps people's departments on their toes?
I think it can at times. Yeah, I think anytime we put out the audit schedule of the annual audit schedule of what we're going to audit, people are always very curious of, are they on the list? I think it is very useful in that we try to make sure that we are known to the departments. We are out there. It's not to be an intimidating thing, but it's more like, hey, we are checking on things. And I think just knowing that we are around is a good thing. I think we've been able to make some good strides in making some good, we're recommending some good improvements to the county. And I think that they have felt that was useful, because sometimes it's, when you're working in the weeds all the time, sometimes it's really hard to kind of see that bigger picture. So.
And I guess the follow-up question is, has it helped avoid any corruption? Has your presence in your audits and your public presence avoided any corruption, or have you been able to catch any more easily?
I think fraud, waste, and abuse, correction. I think we're always on the lookout for that. It's something as part of our auditing standards we have to be aware of. I think we're always trying to look at the environment and wonder, like, okay, what is kind of going on in this atmosphere and everything. I think by making a lot of the recommendations we have, I think that helps address some financial issues and everything. Have we found any sort of massive corruption? No, I will tell you that I am not aware of any that we found. But we are always on the lookout for it. And if we found something that was pretty serious to a degree in which we needed law enforcement, we would probably be contacting the sheriff's office for something like that to say, hey, this is looking really weird. It's probably time for you, sheriff's office, or you, law enforcement, whatever body that is, to do an investigation. Their investigation would be very different than ours. They would have different parameters, and they have different authority to get out of the evidence too. So.
I think it's good for the public to know, to be more confident that, all this talk, the buzz around fraud and waste and corruption, that actually we're on top of it.
We try to be. We try to be. We do a risk assessment every year, looking at kind of what areas of the county that we might need to do audits on. We look for things like, okay, where's most of the money being spent? Where do we have the most staff? We look at things like risk management reports, have there been any accidents or things of that nature. So we try to get to the topics that we think are important and that we have capacity to have in the office to be able to do. Um, there are probably some topics that we are not able to do because we might not be experts in that particular area. And in those cases, we would probably contract out for those particular services to bring that expertise into an audit. So we do have a tiny little bit of money for things like that, which I'm very grateful for. But so, for example, if we were to do some sort of law enforcement audit looking at investigations, we might contract a part of that out to get that expertise of somebody who does law enforcement investigations.
So the last question, given the current political environment, which I think everyone, no matter what political standpoint you're coming from, is concerned about, funding. Is funding on your mind, or, as jobs are getting cut at the federal level, do these funds affect you, and are you kind of on your toes looking at how it's going to affect your office or stopping?
I think there are a lot of concerns I have about funding. Certainly, the county, before the new administration came in, the county was having financial challenges, and the county chief administrative officer asked each department to put forth 3 different cut scenarios. It was a 10%, a 13%, and a 17%. So certainly that's something that, when you're talking about a 17% cut, you're starting to talk for sure about staffing. So yeah, that does concern me because we are a small office already. I feel like we're understaffed for where we should be in our maturity level. So I'm certainly concerned about that. The things that are going on at the federal level also concern me greatly, but it's for far different reasons. They concern me because a lot of the programs that our citizens use, or our residents use, I should say, a lot of that money comes through federal money. And it's not just the county. You look at school districts, you have, the lunch program. A lot of that money comes from the Department of Education. So I am concerned that a lot of the services that our residents here in the county may need to access and everything, that funding may be cut short. I don't unfortunately have a crystal ball. I don't think the county folks right now, or any jurisdiction, really has a crystal ball as to how it all is going to pan out. But I think that there is a great deal of anxiety, not just among governments, but also among the general population, of how is this going to work and how is it going to affect me and my family. So I worry about us. I worry how we're going to manage the services and get things what they need to, for them to have a good quality of life.
I agree. I think that from what I hear, people are just afraid. I used to be a school counselor and teacher, and I worry about those things that kids need, those programs, and what's DEI and what's not DEI, but how do you distinguish? So I guess the question is, the DEI angle, is that going to affect your office, and how do you, is that a federal directive you can get, or do you think you'll get a state directive, or how is that going to play out?
So the federal government wouldn't have any jurisdiction over my office, or really I guess they could potentially over the county through grants, but they wouldn't have any jurisdiction over my office in terms of how we consider DEI. Right now, one of the things that we do is, in every single audit, we do basically, we call it an equity brainstorm. We have a topic, staff gather around, we go through and we try to think of different areas that we could potentially audit for equity. Are people being treated, with in accordance to what their needs are and everything, or things of that nature. So that wouldn't impact my office at all. Depending on what happens at the federal level, if they have their particular things in their grants that basically indicate you will or will not do certain things, I mean, that could impact the county. I haven't seen anything of that nature yet. I haven't heard of anything of that nature yet, but could it happen? Sure. Of course it could happen. But it is one of those things that I think we're always, as an office, looking out for. How can we make sure that we are treating people in, a respectful way, in accordance to what their needs are and everything, and making sure that they get the services that they need?
I think it's a scary atmosphere. They'll get PBS, and yeah, and BC is getting, scrutinized. So does it feel like there's randomness or who's going to be next and why are they going to come at you?
Yeah, I think there's some real fear out there. And I know as, county employees trying to do their job and trying again providing those services. I really feel like our employees at the county do a good job. I feel like they are genuinely concerned for the people who come to them for services and want to make sure that they are provided what they need to be provided with and given opportunities. Um, and I think you're kind of in some cases with what's happening at the federal level, we're kind of in between a rock and a hard place on this, because the federal government the administration has a particular view on things. I would say our county, Washington County overall, has a particular culture that tries to be very inclusive. It tries to be supportive. I would say that is not necessarily jiving. Particularly with the federal government and frankly, Oregon, as well as Washington County, as well as like City of Hillsborough and lots of other jurisdictions, we are a sanctuary state. We are a sanctuary county, and our residents believe very, very strongly in that, which gives me a lot of pride and it gives me a lot of hope. It also means that will we have problems ahead? Yeah, we could potentially have problems ahead because we have that culture, but I'm proud of us. I'm really proud of our residents.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up because there's been threats of withdrawing funding from places that have that sanctuary designation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a couple of the audits that we've done in the last few years have been really great audits. I think they've definitely benefited the county in terms of stewardship and accountability and everything. One of the audits we did was on the county's financial policies to see if they were favorable in comparison with best practices. We found there were definitely some areas that the county could have done a bit better on. For example, grants management and some of the things with regard to capital. So that audit, I think, was really useful. It basically asked our finance department to put together some countywide financial policies that really, for a county our size, we should have. Another one of the audits that we did was looking at some of the federal American Rescue Plan Act money, and we specifically looked at money going to economic development. We were interested in seeing how that money was spent, whether we accomplished all of our objectives that we had set out with that money, and really kind of looking at the stewardship of was that money appropriately spent. So we found that probably like a lot of jurisdictions, that was a crazy time. The federal government was changing things here and there and everywhere with regard to federal regulations. Staff were really under capacity, did not have really what they needed from the county in terms of policies and procedures to be able to do really the job that they kind of wanted to do and everything. As a result, we found that there were some areas where we needed some big improvements in terms of grant management, and also looking at monitoring in terms of like verifying some of that data that was provided to us by subrecipients to make sure that we could really say, hey, you know what we accomplished was this, and yes, we can verify that. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case in this particular audit. We couldn't verify a lot of the accomplishments that subrecipients or some of those community providers said they had accomplished. The data just wasn't there to basically be able to prove that. Another audit that we've done, which you talked about a little bit, was the Major Street Transportation Improvement Program. Great program. Has provided a lot of money over the last 30 plus years to county roads to make sure that they have, and not just potholes, not fixing potholes, that's more maintenance, but to make sure that they are safer, that they have good routes for like bicycle facilities, they have lighting, they have sidewalks, to make those major routes much safer. So that was a really good one. Audits that we are doing right now that are kind of in process is we are working on a grants management audit. We are going to be working on a cash handling audit, and we've also started an audit that is more like an IT audit of one of our applications for public records. So really excited about that. And in the next month or so, I will release our new audit schedule for 2025, which will have our new topics. Thank you so much for having me. It was a real pleasure to be able to talk about our office. It's not very often when we get to have quite this attention on our office, so I really do appreciate it. I just want to let you know that the staff here at the auditor's office, even though we have a very small office, we are incredibly dedicated staff to public accountability. I have been so impressed with the people that we have here and their dedication to doing things that are not only, one, trying to achieve good government outcomes, but also the stewardship of resources. If you ever have any questions about the auditor's office or want to reach out with comments about our reports or even submit an audit topic, I would definitely encourage you to contact our office. We have a website on the county website, but if you want to go there, it's www.washingtoncounty.or.gov/auditor. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for watching Community Conversations, and we've been talking to Kristine Adams-Wannberg, and we appreciate you watching, and we will see you next time.